Islamic art in Egypt reached its peak during the era of Mamluk sultans. They took advantage of Egypt's enormous cultural legacy in order to develop their arts. Consequently, highly skilled Mamluk artisans adopted all that was unique in Egypt's own heritage and worked masterfully with the abundant materials available to them. They drew upon many ideas from Seljuk art, such as the madrasa, with its layout of 4 iwans surrounding a large courtyard. Also, the calligraphers who wrote upon their monuments used to be of Seljuk origin, so they were influenced by their art, and that reflected on the Mamluks' monuments here in Egypt. Among the spectacular complexes of the Bahri Mamluks in Cairo, those of Al-Mansur Qalawun, Al-Nasir Muhammad ibn Qalawun at Al-Mu'izz Street, and the madrasa of the Sultan Hassan, son of Al-Nasir Muhammad ibn Qalawun. We have to know that the Mamluks were famous in their way of their writings upon the monuments with the Thuluth script. However, we can see exceptions. Maybe as Mamluks wanted to represent the chronological development, or maybe that was according to the calligrapher inspiration. Al-Mansur Qalawun built his complex in the Great Mu'izz Street, which comprises of a madrasa, a dome, and a bimaristan. He soaked it with calligraphy of the great Thuluth script from the inside out.
We can see, after reaching the complex, at the first look, his titles written all around the upper walls of the complex from outside in beautiful way of Thuluth script. For example, سلطان الأرض ذات الطول والعرض وخادم الحرمين الشريفين قلاوون. For the first title, سلطان الأرض ذات الطول والعرض, it can be translated as the conqueror of the earth who is long and wide, indication to his victory and the military constructions that he made in both Egypt and Levant. Also, he defeated many groups of the Mongols at the Levant coast, so maybe that title refers to that victory. For the title the conqueror, according to the sources, it is never used till the end of the Umayyad era, starting from the Abbasid era, and during the Mamluk era, the rulers started to take that title beside. One of the most important titles that gained by Al-Mansur Qalawun is خادم الحرمين الشريفين. It can be translated as the server of the 2 holy mosques, referring to Mecca and Al-Quds. Mistakenly, we thought that the only one to gain that title is Saladin, which is totally wrong, as we found it among titles of Al-Mansur Qalawun, because he also defeated the Crusaders in Jerusalem. The Madrasa of Qalawun complex contains one of the finest examples for the foundation panels of the Mamluk era, written in Thuluth script, and it can be read as أمر بإنشاء هذه المدرسة المباركة السعيدة مولانا وسيدنا السلطان الأعظم الملك المنصور سيف الدنيا والدين قلاوون الصالحي قسيم أمير المؤمنين أدام الله أيامه وحرس أنعامه ونصره الخافقين ألويته وأعلامه، وكان ابتداء عمارتها في شوال سنة 83 و600، وكان الفراغ منها في صفر سنة 84 و600 من الهجرة المحمدية. From that text we found that the construction of the complex started in Shawwal 683 AH and finished in Safar 684 AH. So we can conclude that the duration of its construction took around 14 months. The dome of Kalawan's complex contains a unique inscription with a square Kufic script written upon the wall for the name of Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, and never been used except in Kalawan's dome.
The name of Abbas Hilmi II adorns one of the pillars with his name, referring to his restoration for the dome. Distinguished by its unique Gothic marble portal, which brought from the church in Acre, brought by Ashraf Khalil, the madrasa of Nasr Muhammad ibn Qalawun, located adjacent to the dome of his father Al-Mansur Qalawun in Al-Mu'izz Street.
Above the portal, his foundation text written in Greek Thuluth script. The text states that بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم أمر بإنشاء هذه القبة الشريفة والمدرسة المباركة السلطان الآجل الملك الناصر ناصر الدنيا والدين محمد بن السلطان الملك المنصور سيف الدين قلاوون الصالح قدس الله روحه ونور ضراحه وذلك في شهور سنة 98 و600. This foundation panel like the panel which exists in the complex of Qalawun, but the most splendid feature of this madrasa is wonderful calligraphy that was carried out on stucco with floral motifs above the mihrab of Iwan al-Qibla, written the last two verses from Surah Al-Hajj, referring to praying, which matching its place above the mihrab read as بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم يا أيها الذين آمنوا اركعوا واسجدوا واعبدوا ربكم وافعلوا الخير لعلكم تفلحون وجاهدوا في الله حق جهاده هو اجتباكم وما جعل عليكم في الدين من حرج ملة أبيكم إبراهيم هو سماكم المسلمين من قبل وفي هذا ليكون الرسول شهيدا عليكم وتكونوا شهداء على الناس فأقيموا الصلاة وآتوا الزكاة واعتصموا بالله هو مولاكم فنعم المولى ونعم النصير. صدق الله العظيم. Written above the Iwan opposite to Riwaq al-Qibla, verse number 30 from Surah Fussilat, related to death, with the same way of the floral motifs on stucco read as بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم إن الذين قالوا ربنا الله ثم استقاموا تتنزل عليهم الملائكة ألا تخافوا ولا تحزنوا وابشروا بالجنة التي كنتم توعدون. صدق الله العظيم.
Right behind us, the marvelous complex of Sultan Hassan with its splendid calligraphy divided into three types upon its entrance.
The first one from above is Thuluth script. The second one is a square Kufic, and the third one is floral sample Kufic, which might be a way to demonstrate the chronological development of calligraphy from the sample Kufic to the Thuluth script, or another way for the Mamluks to show off their efficiency to write with all types of calligraphy.
According to this script, it exists above the entrance of Al-Malikiyya school in the mosque of Sultan Hassan. This script written after the death of Sultan al-Nasir Hassan, and we have an evidence which states in the script. The script states that أمر بإنشاء هذه المدرسة المباركة مولانا السلطان الشهيد المرحوم السلطان حسن.
At Riwaq al-Qibla, Surah Al-Fath runs along the upper wall of the Riwaq, which might be an indication for the wealth, which is obvious by the lavish Iwan, a great opening that historians believe it cost him about 100,000 dinars, a humongous amount of money back then. A more reasonable opinion says that the calligrapher was supposed to write another verse from another surah, as Surah Al-Fath was not the traditional surah to be written in Riwaq al-Qibla during the Bahri Mamluks period. So maybe he changed his mind due to the lack of money or due to the small area.
The script exists in Iwan al-Qibla of the Mosque of Sultan Hassan. It was known at first as a square Gothic with heavily decorated floral background, square Gothic. After that, Bernard O'Keefe noticed that every letter has 45 angles degrees. Then he modified the term from square Gothic to 45 angles degrees Gothic.
It is so rare to find the signature of a calligrapher, but the name of Muhammad ibn Abdullah al-Yamani, typographically written in a vertical manner at the beginning of the surah, on the A'udhu Billah min ash-shaytan al-Rajim, I took refuge from the Satan the cursed side of the verse. Another rare aspect to have this introductory phrase to a Quranic inscription in a monument in Cairo. The name Muhammad ibn Bilik al-Muhsini appears next to the name of the Sultan in the Hanafi school inscriptions as the builder of this architecture. This confirms the fact that he was the chief architecture designer, and unusually, he was an expert calligrapher himself. Barquq was the first Burji Mamluk to take the throne of Egypt in 784 after Hijrah. His madrasa and the Khanqa are considered to be the first monument for the Burji Mamluks. He was known for his piety, kindness, and charity.
The fountain of the madrasa and the Khanqa of Al-Zahir Barquq is one of the unique fountains in the Burji Mamluk architecture. From the fountain we know the date when it built. It was in 1314 from the inscription on the upper part. And we also have another two inscriptions, but it's totally different. The first one, or the upper part, it's Al-Ma'idah Quranic verses, which talking about the purification and how the Muslim should be purified. And the other Quranic verses is Al-Kursi, which ended by the date of the building of the madrasa itself in 788. Also, we noticed that the words are crammed due to the lack of the space. But for the member, we have another inscription which is written in the Sulus script. أنشأ هذا المنبر المبارك السلطان المالك الملك الظاهر جقمق بو سعيد عز نصره. From this inscription we notice that it was not the original member, and it was made by Jaqmaq Bu Said. Jaqmaq was a Burji Mamluk who came to Egypt among a group of young children accompanied by a slave trader. He settled in a service of Sultan Al-Zahir Barquq, who freed him. When Al-Zahir Barquq died in 801, his son Al-Nasir Farag took Jaqmaq as his sakka, and his job is to drink the water before him, in case the water is poison. The star of Jaqmaq began to rise in the Sultan of Al-Mu'ayyid Sheikh, and then in the Sultan of Al-Ashraf Bey, who had him the guardian of his dear young son Yusuf. And with the death of Sultan Bey, the princess settled on the removal of the young Sultan Aziz bin Bey and the accession of Sultan Al-Zahir Jaqmaq in 842, and in a loyalty to his first master, he built this member for him in his school in Al-Mu'azz Street.
The Khanqa and Madrasa of Faraj ibn Barquq is one of the largest complexes that dates back to the Circassian Mamluk. He was the elder son of Sultan Al-Zahir Barquq. His complex is unique in style, as it combined in its plan madrasa, a mosque, and a Khanqa.
Now we're visiting the Khanqa and the madrasa of Sultan Farag ibn Barquq, one of the largest complexes we have. Farag ibn Barquq ruled Egypt for about 13 years. His complex is considered to be one of the largest complexes we have in Egypt. We have the two mausoleums, one for ladies and the other one for men. We have the mosque and the Khanqa, plus we do have two sabil and kutabs existing outside to serve the kids and teach them how to read proper Quran and recite the Quran as well.
On the facade of his complex, you can find his mark as a blazon, and we can read it as follows: عز لمولانا الملك السلطان فرج ابن برقوق.
Here in the Northern Mausoleum, where Faraj ibn Barqouk rests in peace with his father, the royal mausoleum is adorned with beautiful calligraphy all over. Surat al-Rahman exquisitely rounding in the middle of the dome in thuluth, and a text along the wall saying that the Sultan al-Zahir ordered the building of this, but continued after his death by his loyal son al-Sultan al-Nasir Barqouk in 313. All the windows bear the colorful name of al-Zahir, graphically giving the name its literal meaning, al-Zahir, or the apparent, when the sunbeams strike through it.
On this column, we can see firstly verse from Surah Al-Rahman related to the death. Then we have the names and the titles of Sultan Barqouk. And the line number 8, we can see the date of his death, which we can read it as يوم الجمعة الخامس عشر من شوال سنة 1800. And the last lines, we can read some of prayers to his spirit. At the first look, we can see it the same way. It resembles the men's doom, but using the different verse from Surah Al-Zaghraf. It is not the same professional way as the men's doom.
If we consider the Faraj ibn Barqouk Khanqa is the largest building in the Mamluk cemetery, then we can consider the Khanqa of Birzbay as the second largest one in the cemetery. What we have nowadays from the Khanqa is the place for prayer, the Zawiya, the dome of Birzbay, and the Eastern Mausoleum, where we have the relics of his relatives and his high officials. The door of the Khanqa is decorated by a horizontal, almost unreadable thuluth with floral background script, mentioning the titles of the Sultan and date of building 835 after Hijrah. The frieze on the lintel has the verse from the Surah At-Tawbah, or the Repentance.
One of the spectacular elements in Birzbay complex is the member. Originally, the member is not the original one, but it was taken from the madrasa of Al-Muzhir, which is dating back to 884. And we know from the historical books that the member is made by Ahmad bin Isa bin Ahmad al-Dumyati. And we can find the difference in the inscription because the member is decorated with the Kophic inscription, unlike the Solus inscription which covered most of the walls.
The master of Islamic architectures, Al-Sultan Al-Ashraf Qaid Bey ruled Egypt for over 29 years. He was a good and fair king, traveled all around his kingdom, built lots of architectures in Egypt, the Holy Land, and Jerusalem. His complex, located in the Eastern Cemetery in Cairo, it consists of a madrasa, a dome, and the Sabil Kutab.
We know from the inscription that we found it in the mosque that Khedive Abbas Hilmis restored the member in 1615,
and we know that he restored the entire mosque in 1329. From the top, you can find the date on the inscription.
We are now at the Iwan of Al-Qibla. Around the entire Iwan, we see inscriptions, beautiful calligraphy with the name and the title of Sultan Al-Malik Al-Ashraf Abu Nasr Haidy. On this wall, we see verses of the Holy Book of the Quran, Surah Al-Fath, Inna fatahna laka fathan mubinan. And then at the end, we see the date of the construction as of Rajab سنة 877 بعد الهجرة.
سبيل كتاب عبد الرحمن كدخدة. It is located in an area called بين القصرين in شارع المعز in Cairo. Was built by Amir and senior officer عبد الرحمن كدخدة in year 1744. He has a liberal patronage of the arts. He restored and built more than 30 monuments around the city of Cairo, including renovation and development of Al-Azhar Mosque, rebuilding the dome of Qalawun Mosque, and constructing 2 Sabil Kutabs. This one reveals the Ottoman's style that was quite new to Cairo. It consists of a public fountain and a school for kids to learn proper Arabic and recitation of Quran.
Decorating the entrance of the Sabil of Abdurrahman Kadkhuda, there are wonderful calligraphy, that's actually poetry, with a foundation text with his name written down in Naskhi script. We read: هاتف العز بالسعادة نادى حين أمسى طرف الحسود كليلا منذ أن شأت ذات السبيل وأضحى ما أوسى السبيل يطفي العليلة. On top of the entrance of the Sabil, we have a circle, and inside of that circle there is another one, and this one is divided into 4 horizontal panels and 4 on the side. Inside of these circles we read the name of عبد الرحمن. أنشأه الأمير عبد الرحمن جاويش حسن كدخدة. And then from the panel number 4 to panel number 7, there are the names of the Ahl al-Kahf, as he was so fond of writing down those names in almost all of his monuments. On the northwest wall, we found beautiful tiles. On the tiles, which he brought from Iran and Persia, a wonderful text written down in Naskhi and in Thuluth and also in Kufi. The text says: يا مفتح الأبواب افتح خير بابك، يا مالك الملك افتح لنا المسالك. And then in a wonderful Kufi we read: لا إله إلا الله محمد رسول الله.
Maqrizi called them thieves stealing from thieves. Their penmanship and calligraphy manifests how they imitated their predecessors, even from people not nearly related to them. But they mastered it and boasted it on their buildings. Then perhaps the Mamluks did not just become sultans, but also thieves, the thieves of art.